Hey, good evening, everybody. How are you? This is Freddy Ewan, three-time GM of the Year 2022 Pan Cup champion, the 2024 Pan Cup runner-up, and host of that fantasy football show with Freddie Ewan. Happy Monday. It is late November. Fantasy football in full force. We are in the third to last week before the playoffs start. Lots of exciting things going on. Football's been all over the place. My Philadelphia Eagles, I think I'm probably in still in a state of shock how we lost to the Dallas Cowboys. Probably our worst loss in 5 years besides the Super Bowl 3 years ago. It was just awful. This is like the worst 8-3 team I have ever seen. Their offense has just been like I blame it all on the coordinator. I didn't even know the guy's name, but the offense has just been like sputtering like you wouldn't believe. Barkley's been awful, like just a shell of himself from last year. I knew he wasn't going to run for 2,000 yards, but I didn't think it was going to be this bad. And I mean, he might not even have 1,000 yards this year, which is just like, almost shocking because it's just like, such a big part of that team and the Super Bowl team last year. And just to see that, it's disappointing. I think, and like I said, I think the offensive coordinator has a lot to do with that. Anyway, fantasy football's been exciting. Big game tonight for me. Big money league. I think I'm like 4 or 5 points down. He's got McMullen going, the wide receiver on Carolina, the rookie. I got CMC going, so that's a league where I think we're both playoff teams. I am going for first place in that a buy and whatnot. But we're going to talk about a couple things today. I think I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 games that we're going to go over. We're just going to go over highlights of every player on these 7 games or so, and just give me an idea of what's going on in the future and if you can pick up anybody and whatnot. But this is the great thing about fantasy football is there are lots of different fantasy footballs. There are lots of different ways you can play. There's lots of different things you can get involved. You can be really involved. You don't have to be involved at all. Finding the right league for you to play fantasy football is important. Whether you're a beginner at this or you're an expert at this, finding a league where you can fit in, you can communicate well with the people that you're in, whether it's a private league or public league. There are all kinds of different fantasy football leagues that you can play in with all kinds of different ways. Best ball is something that's been enormously popular where, you just draft 20 players at the beginning of the year and then you don't have to do anything. And, it's kind of suitable for a lot of people that are busy in life, that have a lot of things going on, where fantasy football is not one of your top priorities or whatnot. Look into best ball because it's really a great league. Makes you get to enjoy fantasy football, but you also don't have to be constantly making roster changes and looking, is this guy injured or do I have to take that guy out or take this guy out? Great league for beginners and experts. Really just a great league. So anyway, what we're going to talk about today is we are at the end of the regular season. This is the time of year where you are going to find docile GMs. And the definition of a docile GM is a GM who is not doing anything, not really adding any players, not really, not responding to trades. Usually about 99% of the time, a docile GM has a losing record. They're not going to make the playoffs. It really doesn't matter if they win or lose this week. And they're really just not doing anything. Docile GMs are all over the place. They're in every league. There's been times where I've been a docile GM. There's been times where I forgot to set a roster because there was maybe, I was 3-10 and, I didn't care at that point. I wasn't making the playoffs. Um, there's a couple leagues in that I am in, which are very different than most leagues. One is the TPFFKL, where teams become very lopsided at this time of the year, where teams can trade future caps, so they're buying cap here and trading players here. So there's a lot of teams that are just really don't have that good of a chance of winning. The commissioner there has done a fabulous job making sure that everyone completes a field a lineup, making sure that no one is docile. He's always reminding guys beforehand, hey, make sure you put someone in, let's the entire league around, don't forget to field a full lineup, the whole 9 yards. And there are penalties involved. There are penalties if you miss a player. There are stiffer penalties if you do it a couple times, like the commissioner will take over your team from them on. And you see this a lot in $100 leagues. There's a couple, smaller leagues I'm in where, I was playing a team this week actually where, there was a late scratch and the guy didn't take him out. And he's 2-9 or something, which is to be expected. There's also life issues. I mean, there's also life issues where it's like, hey, there's going to be scratches on Sunday where you might have a guy in, he might not play. You might be at a wedding or a funeral or something and not be able to focus on fantasy football. Family comes first, life comes first before fantasy football. Even I know that. Um, but at the same time, when it's the league's job as GMs and it's the commissioner's job to take a good look and to make sure that no one is being a docile GM and making sure that everyone is at least completing a big lineup. I'm in a $15,000 John Galt league, which is it's a fantastic league. It's great. It's basically no limit football. So you have a guy spending $3,000 on a team. You have another guy spending $250 on a team. When me and my man Joe Moo, we're talking about the logistics and putting this together and whatnot, the one thing that I was extremely worried about is, okay, so let's say, you're having a bunch of guys spend a lot of money on a team that wants to get into the playoffs. You have to get first place. And then you have other guys that are spending $300 on a team, $400 on a team. Um, a lot like Major League Baseball, where obviously if you spend $3,000 on a team and you're buying $3,000 players in an auction league, you're gonna have a lot better chance than a guy who's spending $300 on it. And what we decided to do, which has worked fantastic up almost until this weekend, was give money out for the top 3 points. 25% of the prize pool is donated to the teams that come up with the top 3 points. And once again, you're gonna see the better teams get more points overall. They're gonna get more money, but you're also going to see, there's a guy that's 1-11 right now who's been filling a lineup the whole time, who's been making moves. And I don't know how much money he spent. I know he's going to probably come out on the negative. He's not going to make the playoffs, but he scored top points this week. So he's going to get it. And I think I think it might be like $115 or it's gone up, or maybe it's 100, it's close to $100, I think, that how much you get for the top 3 points. And you do that 3 or 4 times and you have a $350 team, you get your money back. I had spent only, I think, $292 in this league last year. I think I hit top points last year like 5 times, and I was basically free rolling once I got into the playoffs, which is, it just makes for and it was really instilled just to make sure that teams are competitive and keeping going. But once again, even in some leagues, you're going to find docile teams. We had a guy this weekend who, I think he had a bunch of commanders and Broncos, but basically, his entire lineup, he had more guys playing on his bench than he did his lineup. And the guy, he said, obviously, emergencies happen. Other things come first, the whole 9 yards. And I wasn't, I think I came off probably upset at this dude, just and which wasn't meant to be. I was really just much more upset with the league and almost the commissioner for not being able to not being able to see this beforehand. I only noticed it when when the day was over yesterday. Like, holy shit, this guy doesn't have anyone in, and he was playing a guy that's hunting in the playoffs right now. So it did have an effect on that, and I think that it is the if you're in a league, especially a league as expensive as this, and you're gonna have a docile GM. It's not really on that GM, but it is on the league to say, hey, look, I understand life is difficult. I understand things are going on in life that aren't as good. I'm sorry for you, but hey, let me take over your team. Let me find someone to take over your team. Um, so we can make sure that the league stays competitive and we don't have, people not starting 5 players. So that was my point, and I think it's probably a good point. And, everyone who was in this chat reached out to me and said every point you made was absolutely 100% correct. You're just a fucking asshole, which I know. So anyway, docile GMs as commissioners, as leagues, as GMs, especially in leagues where you are playing for a lot of money, it is both the GM and the commissioner's job to recognize docile GMs and fix that problem. And hopefully, you can see a fantasy football league where everybody is playing. Everybody starting a field lineup. There's upsets, the whole 9 yards. That's when fantasy football gets really fun. When there's someone who's just not playing at all, it's just like, you know, best ball, check out best ball. Let's get to it. Let's talk about a couple things that went on this weekend in fantasy football. Let's keep it exciting as I can get. I am going to share my screen. Let's see if this green, bring this bad boy over here. Bam. Let's talk about the first one. Bears and Steelers. Bears and the Steelers. Running backs galore, baby. So, Kenny Gainwell, former Philadelphia Eagle, Kenny Gainwell, I always thought was a good player. On the Eagles, he backed up Barkley last year. The guy can catch balls out of the backfield. PPR cheat code, pretty much. He's a great change of back pace. Gainwell has been, I mean, let me just bring up Gainwell's stats yesterday, tell you how phenomenal this guy was in the football game. If you had Kenny Gainwell, you were flying high. Kenny Gainwell, he had 10 carries for 92 yards. Jalen Warren outsnapped him, 18 carries for 68 yards and a touchdown. But, Gainwell had 92 yards on the ground. Gainwell also has six receptions, 30 yards. Going down the stretch, I'm sure he is not free in any leagues right now, but Gainwell's been something else. On the other side, everyone had high hopes for Swift. Swift was going to be reunited with Ben Johnson. Everything was going to be exciting, the whole 9 yards, but unfortunately, that is not how it happened. As I can't even pronounce this guy's name, Kyle Manange, but this guy has been a monster on the Chicago Bears. 12 carries, 48 yards, and a touchdown for this dude. DeAndre Swift, 8 carries, 15 yards. I think that this guy is going to be the go where you go. Swift is definitely a guy that you can probably leave on the bench. It's gonna be really tough to go see him. Oh, brutal, brutal, brutal. But I got to bring this game up. Brutal, brutal, brutal. I can't even stop thinking about this game. But very interesting. Eagles passing game was pretty damn good yesterday. Once again, they can't get anything going on the ground. Saquon Barkley's been awful, just awful. You got to play him every week, but he's been awesome. Awful. Hertz was great yesterday. Hertz has one interception in 11 games. He can get, I think he had two rushing touchdowns and a passing touchdown. AJ Brown finally had a good game. Eagles have a fairly easy schedule coming up, so I think they're going to have a chance to get the offense together. But I would stay away from the running game right now with Saquon Barkley because it's just the jury's still out, and their offensive line is a little banged up as well. Um, you know, which is which is interesting. Um, and the Dallas Cowboys. Sorry, I just wanted to make sure I'm sharing my right screen here. The Dallas Cowboys. It's interesting. CD Lamb had a decent game yesterday, but George Pickens has struggled when Lamb is in the lineup. Not lately though. Pickens has been phenomenal. He's probably been one of the best free agent grabs in the NFL this year, especially for the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas's defense looks a lot better with Quinnen Williams out there. Javonte Williams has been great with the ball in the Cowboys, but it's like, you look at Pickens stat line right now, 9 receptions, 146 yards, and a touchdown. He was targeted 9 times. CD Lamb was targeted 11 times, 4 receptions, 75 yards. CD had a lot of drops yesterday, did not look good at all. If you have Pickens, you're leaning Pickens all the time. I guess you got to start Lamb, but Pickens has got, guy's been phenomenal this year. Really phenomenal. The Falcons and the Saints, this is interesting. Kamara went down yesterday with an injury. I got Kamara in one league. He's just been like kind of like, here and there. He hasn't been good at all. But, now that he's down, Devin Neal, I know is on the waiver wire in a lot of places. I am going to try really hard. I think all my family's out, but Devin Neal is a guy to get. I don't know how Kamara's going to be out. And then, with Drake London out yesterday too, Mooney was awesome. I mean, Mooney was just, fabulous for the Falcons. Falcons win that game 24-10. Kirk Cousins throwing the ball well. He was 16 for 23, two touchdowns. He did have a pick. Bijan was all right. Mooney had 3 receptions, 74 yards, and a touchdown. Kyle Pitts, you just still have not done anything. Kyle Pitts had more targets than anyone else, had two catches, 25 yards. But putting Mooney in if London is out is not a bad idea because he's going to be the number one target. And, I trust Cousins a lot more passing the ball than Penix now that Penix is out for the year. Giants and Lions, and God, I'm not a Giants fan at all. Mike Dang knows that. But, God, the Giants, you guys have blown some. I was just thinking, like, why did they not kick that field goal and go up by 6 in regulation? Like, I just had no idea. No idea. Tyrone Tracy was good yesterday, really good. Everyone's been going back and forth, whether it's Tyrone Tracy, whether it's Devin Singletary. Tyrone Tracy, Wan'Dale Robinson were very good. Jameis Winston had a good game. He threw for 366 yards. Tracy had 20 carries, 62 yards. Wendell Robinson, 9 receptions, 156 yards, and a touchdown. Tracy also had 3 receptions for 68 yards. Meanwhile, Singletary carried the ball 14 times, 47 yards. They are going to give Tracy the shot now that Skidabo's out. I think, everyone really liked Tracy last year. Skidabo came in and played really good before the injury, but I think this is going to be Tracy's ball. And Singletary is just going to be, kind of edge. I don't know if I can trust anyone on the Giants backfield right now. I think the only guy on that team that you can actually trust right now is Wendell Robinson. Meanwhile, on the other side, the Detroit Lions, holy, this guy is amazing. I saw a couple of times when this guy had broken out last year, and Jimmy's got him in a bunch of leagues that I'm with. This guy is he's been phenomenal. Gibbs has just been phenomenal. And he's taken over that backfield. 15 carries, 219 yards, and 2 touchdowns, averaged 14.6 a carry. Here's the other thing about him. He had 11 receptions yesterday for 45 yards and a touchdown. He was targeted 12 times, 11 receptions from a running back. Almost unheard of. So, Gibbs is going to keep running the ball. The big concern is if you're a David Montgomery owner right now, Montgomery had 5 carries for 18 yards. Didn't really get into that offense. He did have 3 receptions. Jamison Williams, God, I mean, this guy's going to score a bunch of touchdowns one day and he's not going to score anything the next day. You talk about the most hot cold player in the NFL. It's got to be Jamison Williams right now. But God, if you have Gibbs right now, you are probably in the fantasy football playoffs and you are probably a high seed. The guy's just been phenomenal. Maybe the offensive player of the year. Rams and Bucks, Baker Mayfield. Thank God. I got Baker Mayfield and Daniel Jones in one league, and thank God I did not start Baker Mayfield. Mayfield, we don't know how bad this is going to be. Teddy Bridgewater came in and played for him. It's going to have an effect. Bucks are so banged up right now. Mike Evans is out. Godwin's out. Emeka, the rookie, has slowed down considerably since his big breakout. And right now, you got to be really worried with really worried if you're a Baker Mayfield owner because you really got to find a new quarterback ASAP. Cousin Pat, call me. I got hurts. Devontae Adams, phenomenal. Puka had a great game yesterday, but I think the Rams are the team to beat right now in the NFL. Rams just, pretty much just gave it to the Bucks. Stafford might be the MVP of the league. 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. Puka, 7 receptions, 97 yards. Devontae Adams, 5 receptions, 66 yards, 2 touchdowns. They are going to the red zone with Adams all the time. It's taken a lot off Puka. Adams is a big receiver. He's been phenomenal on the Rams this year. After being on the Jets and Raiders and really not doing much, he's been phenomenal on the Rams, being that number 2 guy. What a duo. I mean, the Rams are scary good right now. Greatly coached. They are scary good right now. I think the Rams are going to win the Super Bowl right now. If I was going to put my money down, I would pick the Rams to win the Super Bowl. Let's talk about the Chiefs and the Colts. Big game for the Chiefs. They needed a win in the worst way, and they got it. And we're not talking about Taylor Swift. We're talking about Jonathan Taylor. In Colts losses, Taylor's averaging only 10.3 fantasy points per game. When Taylor runs the ball, when he is dominant, the Colts win. Right now, I would probably take CMC over Jonathan Taylor, and I would definitely take Gibbs over Jonathan Taylor. You have to put him in every year, but I think things might be coming down for Jonathan Taylor. Here's the other thing. Kareem Hunt's been awesome. Pacheco is coming back. I think Pacheco is going to be back next week. I am not that big on Pacheco. I think that the Chiefs should stick with Hunt, keep giving him the ball. It's probably going to turn into a 50-50 backfield, maybe with Hunt getting a little bit more more balls. But Kareem Hunt ran the ball 30 times yesterday, 104 yards and a touchdown. Really wasn't involved in the passing game at all because he ran the ball so much. Brashard Smith was out there a little bit. He had one carry and got blasted on the pass. They gave Clyde Edwards-Helaire had 5 carries, 8 yards. He was a first round pick a few years ago. You want to talk about bust? Hilaire has been a bust in the NFL. But I think, Kareem Hunt, I think you want to hold on to this guy, and I don't think you should be too afraid of Pacheco coming back. And let's see what else I got for you guys. I think I got one more game for you guys. Oh, yeah, we're going to talk about the Tennessee Titans and the Seattle Seahawks. You need a quarterback. Mayfield went down. Cam Ward looked pretty good yesterday. Cam Ward looked pretty good. The rookie, first overall pick, taking a little time to get them together. The Titans have been awesome, awful. But Cam Ward threw the ball 250 yards for a touchdown yesterday. He also ran for a touchdown. Had good numbers yesterday. Cam Ward's a guy, if you got one of your quarterbacks down, is probably a guy you can take up and play. They have a fairly easy schedule the rest of the year. This guy, Kenneth Walker, I don't know what's going. Seattle's been really good. They've had a great year. Their backfield has just been so confusing though. We got Ken Walker in a couple leagues. 11 carries, 71 yards. Charbonnet only had 6 carries, 31 yards, and a touchdown. Walker did have 3 receptions for 30 yards. It's going to be, we're looking at Walker right now and we're getting all excited if you're a Walker owner and saying, oh, look at all the carries he's got. But I guarantee you next week Charbonnet is going to get more carries. And, it seems like Charbonnet's still getting all the goal line work. That is going to be embarrassing, not really get Ken Walker in there. So that's it for today. That's it for today, everyone. Enjoy the game Monday night. And don't forget, help each other. League GMs, help each other. Communicate with one another. Let them know if you need help, if you don't want to play anymore, if you need help, we will help you. We will help you. All right. Everyone, have a great night. Thank you so much. Bye bye.